It happened. Your avoidant ex broke up with you. You had a feeling it was going to happen. Or maybe you were completely blindsided. Either way, you knew they were avoidant, or you recently found out that they're avoidant, and now you're scared because you hear that it's harder to get back an avoidant. What are you going to do? Don't worry. I'll tell you. Stay tuned and you'll find out. Hi, this is Lucia with The Art of Love. I'm a dating and relationship expert specializing in helping you get your ex back or to get over your ex. And welcome back, my beautiful no contact army. Have you downloaded my app Silencio to make sure you stay in no contact? If you haven't, the link is underneath every single video and podcast. And if you too would like to join our no contact army, all you have to do is hit the subscribe button and the bell notification, and you're in. And to read our manual, go to nocontactsecrets.com, where you can read 2 free chapters before you purchase the book. So when you try to get an ex back, but especially when you're trying to get an avoidant ex back, the one thing you have to keep in mind is that if you don't give them the time and space to go through the stages, and you stay in touch, or you try to stay in touch, at some point they're going to pull away again, and it's probably going to be sudden, and they will disappear. So knowing the stage that your avoidant ex is in is going to make it easier to get them back. So let's get started. So the first stage is satisfaction and anger. And this only applies if you cheated on them or took them for granted. They're going to be angry, and they're also going to feel the satisfaction of being the dumper and kicking you out of their life. And they may even feel the satisfaction that you're begging for them back, and that you too are now in pain because they've been in pain. They didn't want to break up with you, but they felt they had no choice. And now they want you to experience that same pain. However, if there wasn't cheating and you didn't take your ex for granted or something similar to that, then their first stage will be relief, also known as the freedom stage for avoidance. As you may or may not know, avoidants value freedom, independence, and autonomy above anything else. They're actually more comfortable outside of a relationship. They hate to rely on anyone. And when you're in a relationship, you eventually come to depend on the other person. They also hate conflict and arguments and will avoid them at all costs. And if you're listening to this, you're probably anxious, which means that you often let your emotions get the best of you, and you have no issue with conflict and arguments. So you can see how this is not going to work for an avoidant. And they were probably feeling suffocated and were thinking about leaving for a while. If they're cold and distant, or they've blocked you, it's because they're enjoying that freedom stage. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that there is no chance that no contact will affect them while they are in this stage, okay? Now, the good news is that the stage does not last forever if you get into no contact and stay there. But if you keep breaking it, all you're doing is literally pushing them back into the freedom and relief stage. So if you want your ex to forever be in the freedom relief stage with you, hey, just keep breaking no contact. They'll just see you as the person who's trying to take away their freedom. So that's why it's imperative that you stay in no contact. Now, if your ex was a fearful avoidant, they will actually go through a relief and guilt stage. People who are fearful avoidant usually have a shame or guilt wound. They're constantly feeling guilty for their actions, whereas dismissive avoidants, they don't often feel guilty. So breaking up with you triggers those guilt and shame wounds. And even though they feel the relief, they also feel the guilt. So it's a double-edged sword. So in this stage, a fearful avoidant will text you to see how you're doing. This is why they'll reach out and even act as if there wasn't a breakup, which obviously is confusing. That's why I constantly reinforce that you must not respond to insignificant messages like, how are you doing? It's an insignificant message at this point because it's just too early. They're trying to ease the guilt and the shame that they feel. And they may even try to see you in this stage. But remember, it's not going to last. They have to go through all the stages. And you're going to think that they've already changed their minds and they still want you. And that would be a big mistake. So if you start chasing them now, they will go from feeling shame and guilt to wanting to just get away from you. And they will disappear, and you'll wonder what the heck happened. Well, what happened is that it was way too soon to get back together. But if you're anxious, you just want relief, and you want to believe that they've quickly changed their mind. So unless it was a fake breakup, they did not change their mind that fast. 2 weeks of no contact is not going to make them change their mind. And if they do take you back at this point, it'll be out of pity, and they won't value you as much as they used to. And do you really want someone to take you back out of pity? That would be like someone dating you out of pity. It's like, oh, this poor guy, this poor girl, I feel so sorry for them. I'm going to date them. Same thing. I'm going to take them back. That's not what you want. Or if they do take you back at this stage, they're soon going to have buyer's remorse because they haven't had enough time to go through stages. You have not had time to work on yourself and fix whatever it was that pushed them away, and it's just not going to work. So the best way to ensure that your ex moves on to the next stage is to stay in no contact no matter what. And if you do that, the next stage will be curiosity. Why do they get curious? Because they expected you to chase them when they pulled away. And if you're anxious, that's probably what you normally did until you found this channel or others like mine where you realized you were making things worse. So how do you know they're in the curiosity stage? So glad you asked. If they had blocked you, they unblock you and they start to watch your socials, or they start to watch your socials because they never blocked you. And this is where people get excited because they think that just because an ex is watching their stories or liking a post, it actually means something. But at this point, it doesn't mean anything other than curiosity. And another sign that they're in this stage is if they start with the breadcrumbs, or what I call insignificant messages. As I mentioned before, things like, hi, how are you? How have you been? Hey, did I leave my Guns N' Roses t-shirt at your house? If they're texting random things that make no sense, that means they're in the curiosity stage. And they may also start asking mutual friends or family members they're still in touch with about you, or just casually bring you up in the hope to get some information as to what you're up to. Obviously, the more signs you see, the better the chances that your ex is curious and possibly interested in at least talking to you. But if they're just checking your socials once in a blue moon, then that does not count. At this stage, your avoidant ex's walls are still high. They're not as high as they were in the freedom stage, but they're still high. So trying to convince them that you've changed and chasing them while they're in this stage is only going to make their walls go back up. The only way for your ex to move to the next stage is for those walls to come down. That's why it's important that you don't screw up when they're in the curiosity stage, or they will never move onto stage 3, which is sadness and missing you. And I'm going to end it here for today. I know you wanted to know about sadness and missing you. I don't want to make this too long. However, there will be a part 2 if you're listening to this the week that it came out. So look for it next week with the same title. And if you're not listening to this the week it came out, then just search for a video of the same title, but it'll say part 2 at the end. I know, what a shock. But in the meantime, I want to hear from you. How long have you been in no contact, and how is it going? And if you would like my help to get your ex back, you can contact me at theartoflove.net and we will send you the rates. And the direct link is underneath every single video and podcast. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. If you're listening to this as a podcast, please rate and review. And finally, remember, love inspires, empowers, uplifts, and enlightens.